The Great Exhibition Grounds, foot of the Crystal Tower. The showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now, and I've felt myself swooning 3 times. There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've almost been trotted in 3 times too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. We finally made it through the Bronx, though, by the look of it. Here we are, underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. What's that? I can hear voices from up on the stage. It sounds like an argument. Right, I've had it with you this time. I'm warning you, I will arrest you in a minute. Oh yeah? Go on then, Inspector. Give it a shot. You ain't got no evidence and you know it. Wait, I know those voices. You've got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady, but a night in the cells will teach you some manners. Just try it, I dare ya, if you want that pack of chips rammed down your throat. Yo ho, Grexy, what are you doing up there? It's you, here you are, you here, your ladyship. Your ladyship, I do hope you're well, your ladyship. Does that make her 3 times a lady? I'm not well at all, it's far too busy everywhere. I wanted to ride in a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue. Unbelievable, I will go and have a word for you at once, your ladyship. You will be flying as high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Tobias Gregson, an inspector at Scotland Yard. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but it would appear he's back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And for that reason, he can say a word wrong to the story's author, Iris. But there are limits, surely. Or there should be. Watch it, sunshine. Sorry? What gives then? Don't tell me you're on this case. Yes, I'm acting for the defense. So we are here to investigate. Dear me, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling? A measly 5 bob, is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't ya? You could stand to carry a bit more copper around in your pockets, Mr. Naruhodo. But, hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is. You can have it back, but I will have to charge you for all the bother, 3 bob. This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket, or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. In the case that led to my own suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court. What's your problem, Otto? Diver? Pickpocket? What's with all the name-calling? You want a bag of chips rammed down your throat on all the way on, do ya? I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina. You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks here at the showground. That ain't no way to talk to a lady, Otto. After a year's long time, people can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. So you will have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now. Inspector? That badge is homemade, surely. The inspector part isn't entirely accurate, no one called her that, for what it's worth anyway. Investigating is off the cards for all of us. What's that supposed to mean? Right, well, I will be back up top. You hold the fort down here, alright? Right, sir. This raises a lot of questions. Aber es ist toll, Gina wiederzusehen. Und jetzt auch, dass eben Gina zu einer Inspektorin wird. Das finde ich sehr, sehr cool. It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina in connection with a case I was working on. At the time, she was living in the East End with a group of other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but then she got embroiled in a murder. I had a lot of time to think in prison. I realized I couldn't go on like I was. The diving weren't working out. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, Ginny. So, you went from being a pickpocket to a detective? You got it. Good, in it. Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something out of a book, huh? Talk about a sea change. Ich meine, ja, es klingt wie etwas aus den Sherlock Holmes Büchern. And then there's Iris, old man to think about. Iris's father, you mean? Yeah, I promised her, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police forces around the world to pull out all the stops looking for him. Just a small promise then, nothing serious. Oh, Ginny, you're so sweet. So anyway, that's how come I had a go at the test for Scotland Yard. Only trouble is I don't read so well, do I? Just a small problem, nothing serious. And that's when Hurley approached Gregson and asked for help. So the inspector said he would take full responsibility for Ginny and made her a sort of apprentice. That was very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson and brave. Well, you know Hurley, he enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants. A great detective likes digging for dirt, in other words. So, the long and short of it is, if you got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade. Right then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there? Oh, what, Bruno, what? Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty, and yet here she is, still. Come on, you're not still on about it, are ya? The Legend of the Reaper, or whatever it's called. Goria, don't have worry, Otto. If I didn't have worry, there probably wouldn't be a whole lot of you left. It's like I told you before, innit? The Reaper's kinda like I'm upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside, that I ain't really done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong might be stretching a point. What about Mr. Natsume in Japan? He's perfectly fine, isn't he? Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought. Exactly. So I ain't worried. I'm totally fine. It was out of this world. It was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers on his machine and suddenly it started billowing smoke. Then it just went pop. I ain't seen a better experiment yet. Sorry? You mean you saw Ginny? With your own eyes? Of course, the boss is in charge here, ain't he? Of keeping everything running smooth, I mean. The boss being Inspector Gregson, I suppose. That's going to take some getting used to. So all I have to say is that I'm on duty and I can do whatever I want. Get this, I was up in one of them flying balloons when it happened, watching it from above. No, you're so lucky, Ginny. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You'd had no trouble at all. Then it's settled. When do I start? No. You can join Scotland Yard, Iris. We will see anyway. What I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how can Professor Bunnybrain still be claiming that his experiment was a success? Experiment. Alright, well, it was a success in a way. It was? How can it have been? Surely after the whole machine blew up, no one could call that experiment a success. It's like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of smoke on that whoopin' great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, yeah? In the crystal tower over there. What? In the tower? You can see for yourself, can't ya? Up there above the scaffold. Oh, were all the glasses broken, you mean? Yeah, the cage what the victim got into started with really did get beamed through the air or whatever and landed all the way over there. So yeah, see, it did kind of work, didn't it? What? I don't believe it. I mean, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but then if it's possible, right? With science. Oh, I tell you what, you can have this. It's a blend of the experiment they drew up at the yard. Are you sure? Yeah, go on. I'd free pop of you before, so fair's fair. Yes, I didn't actually give that to you, did I? Something Inspector Gregson said before seemed a little strange. For what it's worth anyway, investigating is off the cards for all of us. Yes, naughty old Grexy ran off after that without explaining himself. Alright, Dad. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine who'd blow up yesterday. Well, that's not fair. We're representing the defendant. In that case, could you at least tell us what you've learned from your investigations? Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate neither. Why? Who did the boss call them again? The forensic investigation team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay a finger on the scene. Bit funny, innit? So even Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate? Yes, I've never heard something like that before. I thought I could have it gender on the quiet though, but the boss called me at it. You probably heard I'm giving me an earful about it before from down here, didn't ya? It's not bleeding fair. I think you were giving him as much of an earful back as I remember it. Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips would make him so stubborn. You say something to him, Otto. Go on, see if you can get through to him. He's up on the platform above us, is he? Where the machine that exploded is. We can try, can't we, Runo? Grexy will listen to us. Naja. Iris wird er wahrscheinlich zuhören. Mir, nicht so. Okay, I guess wir untersuchen das, um dann hochzugehen. This platform must have been set up for the experiment, I suppose. It's very high up. About 30 feet above the ground, apparently. That's what a policeman I just spoke to said. I don't really understand feet very well. We don't use them in Japan. Yes, sorry, it's about 9 meters. But soon you will have been in London a year, Runo. It's time you get used to our measurements. Yes, well, this thing is so tall. The spectators at the front would just have seen a wall and nothing else. They probably thought they'd secured the best spot to watch from, only to be disappointed. There's a saying in Japan, the darkest spot is right under the lighthouse. I feel like it probably applies here. Ah, okay, ich kann da noch hier hochgucken. Aber wie komme ich denn, jetzt hier hoch? These stairs obviously lead to the stage above. We should go up there and investigate the exact spot where the experiment was being conducted. Okay, gut, ich muss auf die Treppen klicken. So that's it, is it? The machine that blew up. Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion, and I've seen my fair share. You've seen things like this before, you mean? Of course, Hurley's always doing experiments that end in a bang. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry. That might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up the stairs. One time he made something that exploded with such force it took the roof of the building. I wish you'd been there to see it, Runo. It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof. Well, anyway, that's enough about that. It's time to investigate. Oh, look, Inspector Gregson is over there. He seems to be deep in thought about something, whilst eyeing up the machine carefully. Really? He just looks confused to me. It ripped itself apart magnificently, didn't it? Magnificently? And mercilessly. So someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and then beamed through the air. Yes, beamed. Not blasted. That's the point. Yes, that part's crucial, really. Is something like that even possible, though, Iris? Oh, Runo, I'm just a child. How should I know? A child when it suits you, you mean? From what I can tell, I think if you were to pull this lever here... Don't touch that! That was practical, instantaneous kinesis, the way you flew over just now, Grexy. Please, your ladyship, I didn't mean to startle you, but I can't let you touch anything up here. So sorry, you can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it. Wonderful, this stuff really is wonderful. It's just like old times, this is. We are representing Professor Harebrine in court tomorrow, Inspector, so we should be allowed to examine the scene. Listen, Sunshine, even I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted special dispensation for scientific equipment act to blame. It's driving me potty. Oh yes, that special dispensation. The professor mentioned that too. More red tape's all we need. I do know what the government thinks it's playing at sometimes. But we are allowed to just look, aren't we? Surely that's alright, isn't it, Grexy? Of course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship, but please don't get your dainty hands dirty, will you? Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, Runo? She really knows how to get what she wants. Using high voltage electricity to somehow disassemble a man's body and then beam him across the crystal tower, it's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public. True, it was by far the most unusual of the experiments planned for the exhibition, mind. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous with so many spectators present, I mean. The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They are more worried about being ahead of the game than the odd spot of public safety in regiments. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, it makes Britain more powerful in the future, you see? Yes, I suppose that's true, in a way. The powers that be are placing a heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment. What sort of rights? They are making it so that any theories the brain have remain their legal property, as it were. Right through developing it into a practical idea and even going into production, which is the infuriating reason us coppers aren't allowed to touch this crime scene. Because the new high-volatile special dispensation for scientific equipment act forbids it. I see now. The only people with permission to investigate here are from some brand new department at the yard. The forensic investigation team it's called. We've been relegated to keeping guard. The forensic investigation team. Any old fool can see that this heap of scrap metal was a shame to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it. Poor Grexy, he's very hate up, isn't he? Remind me again, what's this new legal act that means we are not allowed to touch the scene here? Are you having me at it, Sunshine? It's the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Yes, I think Hurley mentioned it recently, with a real twinkly in his eye, as I remember. I'm sure he did, your ladyship, I'm sure he did. Past especially for this great exhibition, it was all scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions to some suits in the civil services. And if it gets rubber stamped, that's a guarantee of rights to maintain the inventions confidentially. What does that really mean? Think about it, think of all the world-changing new inventions and on display every day at this exhibition, although a good half of them are a lot of coppers, if you ask me, put forward by shamers like yourself. Thanks for that. Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's also fun. It might be fun to you, but a member of the force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, huh? Heck, science, that's what I say. Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job. You would soon think otherwise, after spending a day guarding all these shamers, bogus contraptions. But if they are all bogus, how can anyone hope to demonstrate them? There would be no point. Yeah, well, there is a point, sadly. Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas. If any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant. The scientists get funding? Exactly, and that's what they are all after. All these shamers coming from far and wide to clog up Hyde Park. And who has to keep them all safe, huh? Who has to smile politely and welcome them? Us coppers, that's who. So you can see why I say it now, can't ya? Hang science, hang it! Maybe I can see your point. Currently, Professor Hairbrain lives and works in Germany, now conducting his research. That's right, came back to Britain especially for the great exhibition, as I understand it. Probably after one of the government's research grants. Actually, we learned something else about the professor earlier today. About his time in further education. It turns out he was at university with someone we both know. Lord von Zieks. What's that? That's news to me. But if von Zieks mans the prosecution, then as the accused, the professor fate is sealed? Because the Reaper will get him one way or another? Limley, that man's beyond me. I do know what goes on in that head of his. Talking of von Zieks, this morning's paper ran the story of him being attacked. Read that. Ah yes, but Mr. Reaper's completely fine, nothing to worry about. Yes, right. Glad to hear it. Still, the Reaper, huh? How long's that business gonna keep up, I wonder? The victim of this case, the investor, Mr. Asman, he was another of the Reaper's victims, or so I heard. Lord Barak von Zieks is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can always push the right verdict through. Sometimes justice can't win. Yes, I've heard about jurors being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Bailey came about, isn't it? Obviously, Scotland Yard suspected von Zieks initially. We all assumed he was taking matters into his own hands if he failed to seal the deal in court. Although the man himself denies the charge. Well, we've done a very thorough investigation, and the conclusion we reached is that Lord von Zieks is in no way related to the deaths of those people outside the courtroom. There is no question in my mind. I would stake my reputation on it, I would. But if that's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants couldn't just have coincidentally died if nobody killed them. I know that, but I can't explain it. It's a mystery after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper. Professor Hairbrain mentioned something else. He said that at university, Lord von Zieks was a totally different person, easygoing and kind. You what? He said that it was after they both graduated that something happened to change the man. Do you have any idea what it was? No clue. Really? Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself elsewhere, huh? Okay. Hier ist der Plan. Inspector, have you read this paper? Yeah, 2 unwelcome blasts back to back. This one and the exhibition and the Reapers getting attacked. I know, terrible news to wake up to, wasn't it? I tried to pretend I hadn't read it and turned over for another 40 winks. Thanks to that, I was laid up and got a roasting from the super. Some mornings are like that, aren't they? Okay. Gut, dazu sagt er uns nichts. Zu dem Plan. Dann ist das Einzige, was wir eigentlich nur machen können, uns umgucken, weil ansonsten haben wir nichts anderes, mit dem wir arbeiten können. Considering how badly damaged everything is, Professor Hairbrain was lucky to escape Unscathed, I say. We should have a good look around the machine while we can, I think. Touch anything and I will make sure I will kill you before I get strung up myself, you hear? I won't touch a thing, I promise, so please, spare a thought for your suggestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people like the professor claims? He asks, looking totally incredulous. Give it a rest, sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could answer that question. But we can't, can we? Because of the annoying rules, you mean? Exactly, the annoying, obstructive, flaming rules. Oh, look at the base of the machine there. Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh. It's a screwdriver, I think. Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle is in the shape of a capital letter A. It is? Oh yes, you're right. What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything, I said. Touch anything and I will make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, I said. Yes, I understand. Sorry. I only touched it a tiny weeny bit. But Grexy, I'm very curious about the screwdriver. Really, very, very curious. Of course, your ladyship, you're so clever. Your ladyship fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid I can't let you have it. But Runo found it first. I assure you I will investigate it thoroughly. He's gone off with it. That's very mean, I'm afraid. Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment now. Poor Grexy. That amazing horn-shaped device is pointing towards the crystal tower. I suppose once people are disassembled by the machine, they are shot out of that thing to wherever they're going. I don't think it was supposed to shoot anything, Runo. It was set up to beam people to the crystal tower where they would be reconstructed in their original form. Well, I don't like the look of it. If it was as amazing as it looks, the accident wouldn't have happened in the first place, of course. I suppose that's true, yes. But nothing ever goes according to plan, does it? There are all sorts of strange buildings here in the great exhibition grounds, aren't there? I seem to remember something similar being exhibited in Japan one time. In your country, Runo? I do wish I could go and see it. I would present a particularly steely samurai with a present of one of Hurley's stories I've written especially. And see if I couldn't get Hurley into a jam against some Baritsu master ninjas. You might not find as many of those sorts of people around as you think. Oh, well, that's dull. Oh, but I do know a prosecutor with a John Mac top knot I could introduce you to. Ah, John Mac? Really? Do you think I could have my picture taken with him, do you? Assuming he's recovered from the trim Kazuma gave him a year ago, yes. What is that gigantic thing over there? It looks like an enormous water wheel. That's a Ferris wheel. There will be people riding inside those little cabins you can see. Why? Well, they rotate nice and slowly, so it's a wonderful way to see the surrounding scenery. Wait, it's turning? But it looks completely still. Yes, that's because it's turning so slowly. One complete revolution takes about half an hour. If you were mad enough to go in one, it would be more fun to whiz around fast, don't you think? I feel as though you might have just invented a new sort of ride there, Runo. Die Achterbahn. Okay, ja, das Riesenrad. Wie komme ich denn jetzt hier wieder runter? Weil ich kann mir hier oben ja leider nichts mehr angucken. Ich komme hier halt jetzt so nicht mehr runter. Das ist jetzt ein bisschen... Weil hier oben habe ich mir jetzt alles angeguckt. Zeigen kann ich ihm auch nichts. Also müssen wir uns nochmal unten umgucken. Okay, ich kann jetzt... Okay, ich mache jetzt Folgendes. Ich gehe hier hin. Und dann gehe ich nochmal zurück zu der Stage. Und dann müssten wir eigentlich wieder unten rauskommen. Ja. Sehr schön. So. Und dann... Weil ich wollte mir hier doch das hier angucken. The Crystal Tower. It's certainly an apt name. It was built to be the focal point of the exhibition, and it definitely is, being so tall and with all the glass. I can't imagine a building like this ever being erected in Japan. There are lots of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Ich bin mir gar nicht sicher, ob ich das Wort richtig ausgesprochen habe, aber müsste sein. Of course, there is an observation deck, but there's also an art gallery, a zoo, and a museum. But I heard you have to queue for 3 hours just to get through the doors. Well, at the moment, the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw. And thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut. Suddenly, it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower. Apparently, everyone's taking to the skies now to look down on the disaster area from above instead. But there's a 3-hour queue to go up in a balloon now. Londoners must be very patient people. Oh look, what's this? A ripped piece of cloth. It's not like any fabric I've ever seen before. It's very thick and stiff. It looks extremely durable. It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing. And the edges appear to be a bit shared as well. Maybe that means it had something to do with the explosion. Let's make a note of it whilst Ginny mid-yawn. Okay. For some reason, the ground is damaged on this spot. Look, almost as if there was a fire here or something. Yes, if you look closely, there's some scattered ash and burnt embers too. Well, I suppose there was a big explosion just above here. People probably wouldn't bat an eyelid at a small fire like this would have been. I'm not sure we English are quite that laid back, Runo. Oh, it looks as though somebody dropped something behind the tree just here. Dropped or hid? What is this? Some part of the machine that exploded? Maybe. It could have fallen from the platform above in a blast, perhaps. What's going on here? Oh, nothing. I think I will hang on to this just in case. Okay, aber mehr können wir uns hier auch nicht angucken. Dann würde ich sagen, wir gucken uns einmal in der Gerichtsakte um und untersuchen das hier. It looks like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. I've never seen anything like it before, but applying Mr. Shelm's methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. And the tearing must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. Okay, aber mehr können wir uns jetzt auch nicht angucken. Sieht wie eine Armbrust aus, oder? Doch eine Armbrust. There's some sort of lever here. What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. Yeah, called a crossbow. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. Hey, crossbow. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic fire mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I'd had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyoto archery training. It looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. Must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. Okay, aber das war's. Das ist nur die Frage, ob wir das Gina vielleicht mal zeigen wollen. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go? Looking for this other. When did she do that? I wonder if you got anything else to show me, huh? What do you reckon? Have that back first, please. Okay, sie sagt uns dazu aber halt nichts. Und dazu sagt sie uns auch nichts. Okay. Dann können wir da auch nichts mehr mit ihr reden. Unten können wir uns nichts mehr anschauen. Dann würde ich sagen, wir gehen jetzt nochmal nach oben. Vielleicht können wir ja Inspector Gregson was zeigen. Weil hier ist ja jetzt wirklich nichts mehr, was ich mir wirklich angucken könnte. Neue Optionen zum Reden gibt es auch nicht. Okay, dann... Okay, er möchte uns darüber nichts sagen. Was ist mit dem Crossbar? Möchte er uns auch nichts sagen. Okay. Ich könnte dann nur noch einmal ins Gefängnis gucken. Okay, okay, jetzt ist er nicht mehr hier. Hatte ich Gina den Zeitungsartikel gezeigt? Nein. Okay, darüber möchte sie nicht mit uns reden. Aber wo soll ich denn da noch hin? Ich habe doch hier jetzt alles untersucht. Ich habe versucht, beiden alles zu zeigen. Im Gefängnis ist der Professor nicht. Weil ich kann mir oben ja nichts anderes mehr angucken. Oh, Moment, das hier kann ich mir noch angucken. That's where the cuff ended up after his instant kinesis or whatever they call it. Dead, of course. And yet they are calling the experiment a success. What's the wooden scaffold there for? The coppers, our lads set that up after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. Don't know, really. Didn't you help to build that scaffold then? Nah, look, that dude is more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition and keeping a lookout for the fun stuff. Mind Gregson doesn't hear you saying that, or he will give you the boot. It's incredible though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? Runo, listen! What is it? I've been thinking. Hurley might know something, mightn't he? About what? Mr. Reaper! About what happened to Lord Von Zix, you mean? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred after he graduated from university. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Master Shelms at the moment. He is in the middle of some big case, isn't he? Here, this is what you need. What's this? Some kind of entrance ticket? Madam to spells. Is this supposed to mean something to me? You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London at the moment. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We could go now if you like. No, we don't have time for visiting attractions today, Iris. We have a big trial tomorrow. But that's where Hurley is. What? At this popular London attraction? How is it that you know where he is? Hurley told me, but he told me to keep it a secret from you, Runo. Madame to spells. Also das müsste dann das Wachsmuseum sein, oder? I don't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating here, but then stranger things have happened, and when they happen, Mr. Shelms is usually at the heart of them. Gut, dann gehen wir dort einmal hin. Ja, Waxwork habe ich schon gelesen. Das ist das Wachsmuseum. Miss Tuslow. Ich habe Madame Tussauds oder irgendwie so. Ich kann den Namen nicht richtig aussprechen.